One night, instead of sleeping, I was scrolling through TikTok, being the unproductive little shit that I am, and as I was enjoying the content that would have serious side effects for the rest of my life as a result of how much cell damage my brain would sustain by the sheer amount of brain rot I have been consuming, I came across this video.
I remember one day, maybe was the first day of my life. You came to my heart, my eyes wide open to you. I feel warm behind you, take my hand inside. Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me again.
A simple lyric video of the classic Nightcore song Kiss Me Again by ROYBEE, easily one of my personal favorite songs of all time. So after listening to it for a minute or two, remembering the ye old days of the internet and how much Nightcore as a genre has grown and evolved, I wanted to know how the general TikTok population was enjoying the song. So I decided to check the comments on the video. Save Europe. 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 Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay? Okay? Okay. What's Save Europe? Save Europe is a far-right movement with the express goal of removing, if not completely exterminating, immigrants, especially those of Arab or African descent, from European countries. Now, obviously, I don't really like the movement, especially because the primary reason for the movement is the worry that immigrants cause crime rates, the cost of goods, and healthcare to go up. Now, unless you're fucking brain dead, this isn't true. Like, at all. But I knew this. From the semi-recent Save Europe movement in the UK to the general growing right-wing movement in Europe, I wasn't surprised to learn about the fact that the Save Europe movement is booming in popularity, especially among young men. But in a fucking Nightcore lyric video of all places? As someone who's been keeping up with Nightcore since damn near its conception, seeing this open and proud white supremacy taking over a genre of music I grew up with and loved, it was shocking that it wasn't. I wasn't surprised at all. I just said to myself, of course, blocked the account and moved on. But then I paused. I thought to myself, why am I not surprised? If you know the history of Nightcore, you would know that most of the creators and listeners, at least during the early days, were queer, they were people of color, they were neurodivergent, the complete opposite demographic of this far-right fanbase that has seemingly cultivated now in the modern era. So, why? Why is a genre of music created by the exact groups of people that far-right Nazis hate, groups that they're actively trying to discriminate against, remove the rights of, if not just straight up kill, being listened to and enjoyed by Nazis? It's an interesting question for sure. I mean, why is this the case? Out of the hundreds of different genres of music, the thousands of artists, and millions of different songs to choose from, hell, this isn't even mentioning the other forms of media/art. Why Nightcore? Like, why a genre filled to the brim with a bunch of gay kids? I mean, it almost seems random and nonsensical for these people to choose a piece of media like this, but not at the same time. The way these people interact with this video seems deliberate, and it also seems so familiar as well. Like, this has happened before, if not multiple times. As if there's a pattern involving not just Nightcore. It seems almost planned. Maybe we should delve a little bit deeper. But maybe we should probably learn what Nightcore even is. Nightcore is a music genre created in late 2001 by Thomas Nilsson and Stefan... with their stage names being DJ TNT and DJ SOS, with the concept of Nightcore coming from a school project with a Norwegian duo called with the same name, where they would take pitch-shifted and sped-up versions of trance and Eurodance songs and call them their own, with the origins of the name being as stated by the duo, "We're the core of the night, so you'll dance all night long." Alright, fucking quote, not gonna lie. With the genre as a whole being inspired by tracks such as Nesja and Ramp, with some inspiration from genres such as happy hardcore and bubblegum music, but primarily trance and Eurodance, they would release 5 albums under the same name, with their first album, Energize, earning them an A+ for their project. However, these albums wouldn't get too much traction for a while, with them only really posting on their website and not much else. That wasn't until websites such as LimeWire would post, steal their music without their knowledge. Their songs would slowly start to gain more and more traction and attention until 2008 when user Mikhail631 would make/post the infamous Rockefeller Street Nightcore remix onto LimeWire and later on YouTube, referring to the remix as the Nightcore version. Although the song was originally made by
Jaani,
the remix version blew the fuck up and was quickly surpassing the original, being one of the very first viral Nightcore songs and putting the genre as a whole on the internet's greasy shit-stained map. With how easy it was to make Nightcore, it very quickly became an internet staple, as any dumb fuck with an internet connection and a computer could turn any track into a Nightcore song. Along with this, anime soon became tied with Nightcore as well, as anime was on a major rise in popularity in the West, and Nightcore songs such as Caramell girls hitting insane numbers in Japan. Along with both having similar themes and aesthetics, they soon became inseparable from one another. All these factors, from ease of access, bright colors, anime thumbnails, and very loud catchy music, would attract a very young audience to Nightcore, especially with Scene becoming extremely popular with young teens around the same time, and with how perfectly Scene aesthetics fit into the aesthetics of Nightcore, it was pretty much inevitable that they would become tied and linked with one another. All these factors led to Nightcore becoming a wildly diverse genre of music, and not just in content. With Scene having links to emo, which had links to punk, the Nightcore scene was filled with queer people, people of color, neurodivergent people, and just people from all walks of the internet. However, the highs never last long. When the mid-2010s slowly became the late 2010s, Nightcore was seen as almost a blight on the internet, at least from the spaces I was in/seen. But even if you believed that wasn't the case, one thing was for sure, and that was Nightcore slowly losing relevance. 2015 to 2019 was pretty much the dark ages for Nightcore, especially as cringe and cringe culture took over the internet. Everything you did and enjoyed when you were younger was seen as cringe and therefore bad. And with the internet as a whole becoming more cynical and jaded towards alternative subcultures and queer people, this jadedness quickly grew into anger, with both alternative subcultures and queer people being major parts of Nightcore, causing the genre as a whole to be heavily hated by the internet. And soon enough, Nightcore was basically gone. Well, that was until 2020. Oh boy, 2020. Being the catalyst for so much shit, it definitely started the new decade off with a bang, or a cough, as now we had to deal with the big bad looming around. This left many people trapped in their homes with not a whole lot to do, so people started experimenting, without being forced to deal with the ire of judgmental teens who probably wouldn't amount to anything. Hell, I didn't. Many previously hated alternative subcultures skyrocketed in popularity. Whole new subcultures such as the TikTok alt style gaining massive traction. With said alt style came the discovery and popularity that was the absolute beauty of the sped up version. And with hyperpop, especially the 100 gigs variety, blowing up with it, some sped up versions of songs started to become almost as popular as the originals, with some even overtaking the original. And with older alt kids, now alt adults, pointing out that hyperpop had links to Nightcore and the fact that sped up versions of songs were just Nightcore, Nightcore had a renaissance. Now it's common to see sped up versions or Nightcore versions of songs made and posted by the original artists/bands of the song. So, Nightcore is fucking back, baby, and it's looking like it's here to stay. Now, after hearing this, you might be wondering, how does this have anything to do with the far right, like, at all? If anything, it seems as if Nightcore is still pretty progressive. Well, I'm fucking getting there, you impatient slut. God, can you fucking wait for even a fucking second, you degenerate piece of shit? God! Holy fuck! Looking into the accounts that first sparked this video, I didn't really notice much. However, the few things I could grasp together were extremely odd. First of all is the lack of signifiers. Hell, if not just uniqueness in general. Every account, every single one I could find using ROYBEE's Kiss Me Again were almost identical. Similar profile pics, similar bios, and almost the same type of content as well. Black background, bright and colorful text, with a fisheye lens type of effect while the song of choice plays in the background. Most of these TikTok accounts operate as typical lyric channels, just posting random popular songs, both old and new, all in the same style, with nothing of note throughout most of these videos. However, every time they post a Nightcore or Eurodance song, such as Kiss Me Again, the comments get flooded with Save Europe, have a totally great day, have a totally nice day, and never lose your smile. All far-right Nazi dog whistles, all of which calling for the removal and or death of Arabs, Muslims, Jewish, Roma, and Black people, along with other minority groups as well. Now, after delving into where these comments were being posted, two commonalities began to appear. 1. These comments would generally target European-based music / songs, and especially the Nightcore versions of these songs. And 2, the comments are especially concentrated on lyric videos, and videos specifically talking about either Save Europe or just Europe in general. Now, of course, this isn't much to go off of. Other than the same dog whistles persisting throughout all of these comment sections, there's not a whole lot of useful information. Even the channels themselves seem relatively fine, with only a few actually interacting with these comments, and even then, it's not much. So I decided to check to see if the actual creators of these songs had anything of note. Now, most of the creators of the original songs used in the Nightcore remixes either have no notable political history on the social media accounts, or at least seem like they're left-leaning people. For example, ROYBEE has almost no information on him. As far as I know, he just simply made Kiss Me Again and left the internet. With Pankito Official, the person who produced Kiss Me Again, being a decently popular DJ with nothing of note from what I could see at least. Most of his posts are either about a song he worked on or a DJ said he did. So after finding nothing of note, I decided to go on YouTube, mainly to see if I can find any other relevant information I could use. And again, Eurodance and the Nightcore versions of Eurodance songs were filled with these comments, which is strange considering the context of Nightcore especially. But at this point, I was kinda stuck. I didn't really know where to go from here, especially since there was such little information to go off of. But the presence of alt-right and Nazi imagery being so prevalent within these spaces just irked me to no end. It felt almost nonsensical for these horrible people to be here, and the question, why are they here, was taking up almost every square inch of my mind. What was the connection? What was the reason? Is there someone or something connecting these two wildly different groups together? To say I was lost would be an understatement. I was so genuinely baffled as to why Nazis of all people would be infesting spaces such as Nightcore. But one night, as I was listening to Kiss Me Again and reading the disgusting YouTube comments under it, I went back to the YouTube homepage, and I got recommended this.
I remember one day, maybe was the first day of my life. You came to my heart, my eyes wide open to you. I feel warm behind you, take my hand inside. Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me again.
Now, obviously, this is Nazi shit. If you don't remember or forgot, the quote-unquote Aryan race was the main or central point of Nazism and Hitler's ideology, believing that European features, pure white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes were signs of perfection and purity. Obviously, bullshit. None of these features mean anything other than where you're from and how your mom and dad's genetics interacted with one another. And also, maybe you're probably a little inbred because blue eyes technically aren't natural. Anyways, but I felt that one of the strangest parts of this channel, or, well, the strangest parts of me coming across this channel, was that I never interacted with this content before. Other than the occasional full playthrough of Kiss Me Again, I never liked the video, commented, or liked any of the comments on the video. Hell, I even disliked the majority of the comments I saw, like it would do anything. But the fact that it just appeared in my recommended without me even showing the slightest semblance of a sign to even possibly enjoying this content was insane. And yet, it was still there. And although this is extremely concerning, because what the fuck YouTube, I want to know more about this channel and the imagery it was showcasing for all of YouTube to see. The original video that popped into my YouTube recommended feed showed the image of a statue made by Arno Breker, a prolific sculptor within Nazi Germany, with his work being described as representing the spirit of the Nazi party. Paired with the statue was a Nightcore Eurodance song that played in the background of this video/videos, with the original video itself being titled as a quote-unquote Aryan classic. This immediately captured my attention. I quickly rushed to search for more quote-unquote Aryan classics, At which point, I was immediately flooded with videos, playlists, and compilations of quote-unquote Aryan classics paired with all sorts of Nazi imagery. It was an insane amount of content tailored for Nazis, and the comments followed suit. The same dog whistles, now amplified and with direct support and encouragement by the creators of these videos, with some even foregoing the dog whistles altogether and just showcasing straight up unfiltered bigotry. These channels are allowing for this disgusting hatred and behavior to fester and grow even larger than before, plaguing the world with even more racism, homophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and all other forms of bigotry. But why? Why is this the case? What could have possibly sparked a fascist rise within Nightcore? Who or what could have possibly led to the ever-growing alt-right movement that's currently taking over not just Nightcore, not just TikTok and YouTube, but all over the internet? Well, now we have to talk about Femboys. Okay, well, Femboys are kind of a red herring. Don't worry, I'll still talk about them in a bit. The real subject is 4chan. Now, I will be mainly talking about /poll in this section and not really the entirety of 4chan as a whole. Why am I saying this? I lost track of 4chan, and most of the freaks on there moved to different spaces, primarily Twitter. So, I want to mention this because I like giving the benefit of the doubt. And for all I know, 4chan, it could be better, it could be worse, I don't know, yeah. Back to the video. 4chan is a cesspool of low-life degenerates, created with the sole purpose of having a website with no rules, so all forms of bigotry can cover the shithole that is the internet with a layer of cum and smegma from years of not washing themselves. If you're an older trans person watching this, you might remember the pit of AIDS and smegma that was /TTTT. Hey, future me here. If you're wondering why I sound different, it is because this is kind of a spur-of-the-moment recording that I just kind of wanted to include here because I had some recent developments come up. Basically, this section, when I was like researching, or not researching, but when I was looking for images, stuff to put on the screen for this section, I came across this Reddit thread that pretty much had the exact same shit on that I wrote, basically. I did not know this Reddit thread existed until right now as I was editing this, so I basically accidentally, without knowingly, plagiarized someone. So, I just wanted to come on here and just say, I'm sorry to that person. I did not mean to accidentally plagiarize you. I have messaged them, and if this part is still in the video, that means I still have not they have not replied to me. So, just in case, I'm just going to get rid of this section entirely. If you want to know what I was, going to say, basically, /TTT, whatever, super toxic, bad, basically a very transphobic place, even though it's meant for trans people, setting up these trans people to, insanely high standards, not even like most cis women could achieve, and basically setting them to fail. That's like the gist of it. So, yeah. Again, I didn't mean to accidentally plagiarize this person, so I'm just gonna remove this part. Anyways, I'm going back to the video, bye. /poll or /politically incorrect was where most of this bigotry took form. Being by far the largest and most active board on the site, it acted as a cum dump of white supremacy, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-LGBTQ content, with an extreme hatred towards black people, women, and pretty much just any minority group you could think of. Along with just general bigotry, the board was a key part of influencing many horrid acts in the real world too. From convincing mainstream media into thinking that the OK symbol meant white power, to the creation of Gamergate, which has permanently damaged much of the internet, causing a wave of far-right Nazi-like people to plague any and all discussion online, to the point where its effects are still very much felt to this day. I've been on the internet since I was like fucking 6 years old. Holy shit, I am 20 years old now. My god. And I'm lucky enough to know about and watch the shit show that is 4chan from a distance. So although my brain was rotted by right-wing propaganda when I was a teenager, it could have been so much worse. So I guess that's a win, sort of. I mean, things could be worse. So, much worse. But yes, if you've been on the internet like at all, you already know this. 4chan is awful and bad, but what does this have to do with the video and the subject at hand? Well, 4chan is a Nazi cesspool that hates any and every minority you can possibly think of. Truly, some of the most horrid Nazi shit that anyone can experience comes from 4chan. So much of the bigotry and hatred experienced by people of color, women, queer people, and etc. on the internet has been a product and byproduct of this Nazi breeding ground that was so prevalent in 4chan. And yet, they're really fucking obsessed with femboys for some reason. 4chan's weird obsession with femboys is almost as long as the barrel of a gun pointed to my chin from having to look at this shit. Although femboys have been around in internet spaces for a while, most of the culture that surrounds femboys today was created by 4chan users. Even though 4chan is extremely hostile towards queer people, and yet 4chan is and was so influential in the femboy community to the point where damn near every aspect of femboy culture is taken directly from 4chan. Whether that be the thigh highs meme to how most femboys talk, it could be traced back to 4chan in some way. It's so bad, in fact, that pretty much every femboy that you will meet is either cringe or a Nazi as a result of this. Now, obviously the former is way better than the latter, but much of what the latter has done has infected deep into the roots of most femboy communities. Now, of course, that's hyperbole. Most femboys you'll meet are well-adjusted people who aren't psychotic freaks that do and say horrible shit. Most are just feminine or effeminate men and nothing more. Hell, a lot of them are really good and lovely people. Don't let one bad apple ruin the bunch type shit. The prevalence of far-right femboys has rooted itself deeply into most femboy spaces, with Nazi dog whistles being planted all over the many different femboy spaces on the internet. Dog whistles are a way that Nazis and or fascists use to silently communicate with other Nazis or fascist individuals, with certain key features and signifiers being dotted around relatively normal posts and media to let other Nazis and fascists know that the person who posted this is one of them. It's a if you know type of system, with one of the many reasons for why it's used is that if you try to explain to someone who doesn't know what a dog whistle is, the person you're trying to explain it to might see you as being batshit insane or crazy, not allowing for the knowledge of what dog whistles are to be known in the general public, allowing them to be hidden in almost plain sight, with most people not even realizing that they're spreading them in the first place. So oftentimes, people who don't know any better might accidentally share something that might attract the wrong crowd. But why are femboys so prevalent in 4chan and Nazi spaces, when they should be one of the most hated groups of people in 4chan and these spaces? Well, I believe it's due to two factors: misogyny versus horniness, and insecurities. To put it simply, 4chan users are fucking pussyless losers. Whether it be everything about them, or their misogyny, 4chan users don't get a lot of action if you couldn't already tell. And so, femboys are kinda perfect if you're a woman-hating Nazi. They're hyper-feminine, know the struggles that men face, and many different cultures that far-right individuals idolize, such as ancient Greece, were gay as fuck and feminine men were very prevalent in those cultures. So this could definitely be a reason as to why femboys are so prevalent in far-right communities, but I believe option 2 is the primary or the main reason for their prevalence. The early 2000s to mid-2010s were extremely harmful towards queer people, and especially towards people who didn't follow the gender binary, with even the word transgender being extremely controversial before the turn of the century. So many gender non-conforming individuals relied on the internet to be able to find safe spaces away from the mass amounts of bigotry found in everyday life. So, message boards, such as 4chan, became a beacon for these people. The younger and more easily impressionable femboys, who were filled with anger and frustration due to them being outcasted from society, created a crack that allowed for these ideologies to creep in and force themselves into these spaces. Put a pin on that for later. There is also this strange joy from saying these horrid things. Although they might not really believe in these ideas, seeing how people react and angering people is strangely joyful. Knowing from personal experiences, lashing out at people and inflicting pain onto others satisfies that self-hatred. But no matter what I did, that insecurity just simply couldn't leave my mind. So I became reliant on this harmful behavior, and although I never really agreed with these ideas, it didn't really matter, because in this stupid mind, it was the only way I could relieve some of the dysphoria and discomfort I was feeling. Even though that wasn't true, it at least felt like it was. And this is what many femboys/trans individuals felt. Any escape, whether that be from the world that wanted to see their bodies burnt and destroyed, to the escape of the ever-consuming feeling of dysphoria and self-hatred, was welcomed. And with femboys enjoying many aspects present in Nightcore such as anime, the cutesy aesthetics, and the music itself, and the fact that Nightcore did originate in Europe, it was almost inevitable that at least some Nazism crept its way in. And although most of the modern-day Nazis within Nightcore and other spaces probably fucking hate femboys, that initial wave opened the floodgates for Nazis to take over the genre. And we're seeing this right now. It is happening, not just in Nightcore, but in many different sectors on the internet and in the world as a whole. But this still doesn't answer why Nazis would want to take over Nightcore. Why would they care so much as to give a genre that's very much the opposite of what they believe in the time of day? And that's when we turn to the skinheads. The term skinhead originates in 1960s London with the rise of suburban row houses after World War II. Although they go back further, with the first major rise being shortly after World War I, the Second World War led to its wide-scale usage in many parts of London and England as a whole. These row houses were a staple of modern suburban life in London, with said suburban life having very restrictive attitudes present within said communities. These restrictions led to the rise of a few alternative movements, with one movement being very prevalent during the time, the hippie movement. Hippies were anti-war advocates, and heavily rejected many of the mainstream ideologies, with especially focusing on counterculture movements such as the Civil Rights Movement in America and the Women's Rights Movement in the West. Hippies were also one of the most prevalent in the fight against the Vietnam War, suggesting that we should make love and not war. The positive sentiment of the hippie movement would quickly fade away in the suburban row houses of London, as many felt the hippie movement left nothing more than empty promises and little change. And as goods and housing were becoming more and more expensive and difficult to maintain, this caused much of the working class people of London to be pissed. Not with just the hippie movement, but with the British government's lack of care for the working class. In came the skinheads. With changing immigration patterns due to the war, many Jamaican immigrants began to enter the UK. As more and more lived side by side with the working class white majority in London, the proximity allowed for cultural exchange. With this exchange, these English kids and teens were being introduced to reggae and ska, along with some influences from punk. The skinhead movement was born. Much of the skinhead movement was about embracing the people's blue-collar status with pride, advocating for similar beliefs to punk, such as a non-race-based multicultural scene, a rejection of many forms of bigotry, and being staunchly anti-fascist. However, these sentiments would soon change in the 1970s with the second major wave of skinheads. As the job crisis took full swing, the economy began to tank. And as immigration increased more and more, soon fear and anger would permeate many of these working class communities, with the far-right National Front Party taking advantage of the growing fear among the middle class and geared it towards the growing immigrant population. And as more and more working class men faced harsher and harsher economic hardships, sympathy towards the party's white supremacist politics grew. With skinheads focusing on blue-collar issues granted them a level of popularity among these demographics, the National Front Party began infiltrating many skinhead groups and communities, from selling propaganda through magazines, to selling propaganda through member-only nightclubs and pubs in rural areas, with the nearest public pub or nightclub being miles away. The National Front almost fully co-opted and hijacked skinhead culture. But skinheads and Nazis wouldn't be intertwined until the 1981 Southall riot, where a large group of skinheads were heading to a concert in Southall, a suburb with a large Indian and Pakistani population, at least at the time. Said skinheads would assault an Asian woman, kicking and bashing her head in, while destroying and vandalizing businesses throughout the suburb, with a Southall youth associate telling the New York Times that
they sheltered behind the police barricades and threw stones at the crowd. Instead of arresting them, the police just pushed them back. It's not surprising people started to retaliate.
And they did, with many men from the community following the skinheads to a pub where a brawl took place soon after their arrival. And with said skinheads donning swastikas, Nazi imagery, and National Front gear, Nazism quickly became associated with skinheads. And as more and more far-right Nazis donned skinhead ideology and imagery, they became almost inseparable from one another. Soon enough, said ideology began spreading throughout America, and the same bigotry and violence followed suit. But why were Nazi ideologies able to so easily spread throughout these communities, and not just skinheads, but to any subculture or community? Well, that's because of impressionability and insecurities. Nazis and Nazi ideology prey upon people struggling with insecurity, whether it be the insecurity of housing, worrying whether you'll be able to pay rent or if you have to trade food and water for warmth in winter, whether it be the insecurity of ostracization from society because of the way you choose to express yourself or your gender identity. With said expression comes the fact that it actively destroys the fragile nature of our patriarchal and heavily gendered society, or whether it be the insecurity of direction, as you're lost and confused, with significant life-changing crises plaguing your very being, seemingly every day, causing you to be confused and scared as to where your life is heading, all of which causes insecurity. A feeling you cannot shake, as these complex issues, they're spinning your head. The thoughts of happiness are slowly going away, as your life and material condition are in shambles. Everything around you keeps getting worse and worse. Money becomes tighter and tighter. The bills you or your parents have to pay keep getting higher and higher. You can't grasp who you are, nor the person you want to be. And no matter what you do, it keeps getting so much worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. This pit of darkness and confusion causes you to become lost. You're losing yourself. You become scared. This worry, this fear, it's consuming every part of you and it's taking you with it. It's encompassing your very being. Your mind lost and your body is gone, and consuming you is what it wants. But from the surrounding darkness, a light appears. Your salvation. A tight-knit community that validates you, that gives you a sense of belonging, that gives you a fleeting sense of happiness that you so needed. The feeling of dread goes away as they reinforce your identity, the same identity that you have struggled with for so long. They encourage you, they motivate you to become better. They tell you that you're strong, you're powerful, you're superior than others. The complexities of everyday life that drove you to the lowest point of your life are gone. Your struggles are nothing more than distant memories as you come to the realization that the solutions were right there in front of you all along. You just simply needed to settle down. Forget the modern life. Get back to a simpler time, a purer time. A time that wasn't tainted. A time that you should have seen, but couldn't. A time that was meant for you. A time that was stolen from you by those who don't want you to notice, as they're replacing you, stealing the bliss that you deserve. And soon enough, they'll steal the life that you want. They'll steal the life that you have. Your way of life will be threatened. Everything you have worked for will be gone in an instant. You will lose your happiness once again, and they're not afraid to hurt you. So, will you fight back, or will you let them take what's yours? Hell, why wait for them to punch when you can fire first? This thought process, this path of resentfulness, is why the far-right and Nazis target these groups. Their insecurities make them impressionable. They're looking for guidance and answers, and hell, they got them both right here. But Nazis and the far right, although very exclusionary, are in need of supporters for power. These flowery words and the simplification of the world we live in, all while pointing to an enemy that is easy to vilify, is what makes most of the far right playbook. Your issues, your problems, they aren't your fault. It's because of extremists trying to take away your life. These extremists, these trans people, gay people, brown people, black people, these groups, they're the reason why you're suffering. Not because of you, no. It's because of them. And, well, it's not your fault. You, yourself, you're not the reason why you can't buy bread or afford to pay your rent, but it's easier to vilify a person than a concept. People are scared of the new and unknown, and it's easier to blame a new, different-looking group of people for why crime is going up instead of, our profit-motive economy makes mega corporations care more about lining their pockets than paying their employees a livable wage, causing people to become poorer and therefore resorting to petty crime, increasing crime rates. This concept isn't easy to wrap your head around, and people who are desperately in need of guidance want easy, simple answers. And the right has that. Why think about the fact that your government is currently spending billions of dollars to keep a genocide in the Middle East going, even though half of the population is poorer than it's ever been, with much of your country's infrastructure crumbling before you? Well, the reason why shit sucks ass is because there's brown people immigrating in, said from the same people who have ravaged the countries of these immigrants to the point where safety, let alone economic stability, is a fairy tale. With the only reason as to why these people are immigrating to the same countries that destroy their homes for land and profit is because those same exact countries are willing to give them visas so they become slaves, I mean, undocumented workers, so they can be used for hard labor that pays them in fucking monkey nuts. But this strategy is effective for a reason. People care more about their own individual comfort than the random people across the ocean from them. So if there's an invisible boogeyman looming over you with the threat of destroying you and your way of life, you're going to be scared. You already have very little to begin with, so the threat of losing what little you have left makes people insecure and impressionable to ideologies that solves these issues. Issues that are made by the very same people who are trying to solve them. But all these factors when put together are why so many different leftist media and spaces end up getting such right-wing, Nazi-like fan bases and spaces. They're targeting the impressionable and insecure. They're luring them in with false promises of happiness and community just to fill them with the idea that a boogeyman is coming after them. This is what these Nazis do, and leftist spaces are the perfect places to infiltrate with these ideas. Left-leaning spaces are filled with blue-collar workers, people outed from society, and people who are young, and they're hyper-aware that they're fucked. They're scared for the future and, once again, are looking for guidance. So, oftentimes, whether that be to give it a chance or to fit in, they take the bait. Once again, these spaces are filled with blue-collar workers, people ostracized from society, and kids, all of which have a plethora of insecurities to take advantage of. But I think the most worrying part of all of this is, how do we stop this from continuing? And look, as much as I want to say the best thing to do is to educate people, warn them, and try to explain to them why these ideas are harmful, it's just not practical. One of the many reasons why people like the Taint brothers gained so much traction is because they appeal to the interests and struggles of young men, and had fan accounts that would repost their content spammed all throughout the internet. But, you know, whatever, that was fucking annoying. For every one person you can educate, at least 5 contract the fucking brainworms that is far-right ideology. Of course, if you can, try and educate these people on these subjects. Try to slowly break down these ideas, not with aggression, but with a sense of empathy and friendliness. But for wide-scale change, this approach, it's just not possible to do. Instead, we should probably look at the fact that far-right policies are extremely unpopular. Healthcare, abortion rights, workers' rights, and more are all very popular policies, with right-wingers being heavily against these policies, and also being really fucking weird. It's making them lose ground in the polls, as people prefer to support these changes in policies, along with the people who are trying to implement them, even though Kamala Harris is doing everything in her fucking power to lose, but whatever. Plus, we should be supporting the non-Nazis in spaces like Nightcore. Nightcore was built by people of color, queer people, and neurodivergent people. Nightcore is one of the main inspirations for hyperpop and breakcore, two extremely gay, trans, leftist spaces that have been taking the internet by storm recently. The Nazis in these spaces, such as Nightcore, are only here because these songs are based in Europe, and so they can spread their disgusting ideology to the young and impressionable audience of Nightcore in similar spaces. But Nightcore is still filled to the brim with the same queer, POC, and non-neurotypical people that originally built the genre. So if we can mock, belittle, and cut out as many possible attention to the right as we possibly can, we can effectively stop a lot of the traction that these ideologies are getting. Because again, far-right Nazi policies are extremely unpopular. If these ideologies don't have a base of followers that will agree with them on anything and everything because they have been manipulated into thinking that their way of existence is threatened by some shadow figure in their fucking cum jar, these ideologies would get shitted on. People wouldn't be scared of universal healthcare if it weren't for right-wing politicians saying that doctors are training your kids or because communism or whatever. This is all to say that the far right needs supporters. They know their policies, their ideologies, and what they're advocating for are deeply unpopular, if not just straight up hated. So although they hate minorities, they do realize they need at least some support from them, which is why the far right, for the most part, doesn't care if you're black, white, gay, straight, trans, or cis. As long as you say the shit that they want to hear, they don't really care, because they require that baseline. They require as much support as they can possibly get in order to spread these harmful ideas as much as possible. Even if that means going after subcultures such as skinheads, going after people ostracized from society such as femboys, trans people, queer people in general, or going after communities and genres in music such as Nightcore. Viruses need a host to take over and spread with. And if you're willing to spread these disgusting, hateful ideas with them, they'll welcome you in with open arms. Because without your support, their ideologies will die, along with the power that they have been so desperately fighting for. And because it's easier to stab you in the back if you do. Alright, that was the video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and subscribe. Helps me out a ton. It motivates me to do more of these types of videos and motivates me to do YouTube more. So, if you enjoyed it, again, please be sure to like the video and subscribe. But if you dislike the video in any way, you know, you can go down to the comments and call me a plethora of fucking slurs or some shit. But in all seriousness, if you do have any critiques about the video, please be sure to tell me. I am open to any and all critiques. Any proper, genuine critiques allows for me to better my content and better my, you know, enjoyment in YouTube. So if you do have any issues, whether that be, you know, thumbnail, editing style, quality, whatever that might be, please be sure to, you know, tell me down in the comments below. Another thing I would like to add is, sorry for any, like, fucked up mic issues. My mic has been fucking up recently. But don't worry, I already fixed any and all mic issues, and now you get to hear my deep masculine voice that transcends love to compliment before calling me a good girl. But from now on, this is the quality you should expect from until I get a better, newer mic. I do have 4 videos in the works as of this moment, but no time frame as to when they're being done, but there should be a new video relatively soon. As to when, I don't really know, but should be soon. I'm most probably like a month, but I highly doubt it's gonna take that long. They aren't politically related videos, but I do want to do more political related videos in the future. So once those 4 videos are done and uploaded, I will probably start shifting more towards politics and stuff like that, along with just general, you know, just gaming and, you know, just reviewing, critiquing shit as well, because I do enjoy that as well. So one last time, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Helps me out a ton. And yeah, I'll see you whenever the next video is up. Bye-bye!